Learning about human behavior. The Golden Bear Forensic Institute for Speech and Debate was excellent. I learned so much from that course that I had never learned in my high school classes. The Institute did not focus on the mechanics of speech or debate. They did not focus on research techniques. They did not focus on style or presentation. They did focus on strategy, knowing your judges and the jury, of human psychology in terms of influence and manipulation. It was all the stuff that no one ever taught me. In some ways, it was power over people through words and logical reasoning. It stuck with me ever since they said that. Know thy judge. What watch or shoes or clothes or hat or anything might your judges be wearing? Do they have glasses? Do they have a folder or notepad or binder or a scrap of paper? Do they have well-kempt hair and makeup, or are they all natural? Where are they on the attraction scale relative to others? All of these and many more questions would help define what people were and provide insight onto the psychology that they brought to the session. Knowing your judge had to do with knowing what they valued. So you could tailor your wording and messaging and position so they were most receptive to that judge and their perspective where they were coming from. The goal was not to lie ever, but to package the arguments in a way that the judges would appreciate and agree with. The same thing can be said in nice, palatable ways versus disagreeable, undesirable ways. Another analogy was that you need to put the grit of the argument in between two sweet slices of bread, like a sandwich packing a few undesirable things on the inside. It's like wrapping a pill that your pet doesn't want in meat or cheese. The key was that they stressed, you need to find out what your judge or judges like and craft your arguments around those ideas, around their preferences. Throughout the Golden Bear Forensics Institute for Speech and Debate, we were given lectures and shown videos of famous public speakers like Winston Churchill. Every public figure had one or more insights that we were to glean and learn from. Winston Churchill was noted for drinking from a glass of water with long pauses as a technique to buy time, so that he could think of a smarter answer than just a quick response answer. At the end of the summer program, they revealed the master of all of our techniques that we were being taught to learn from as a master of debate and presentation and influence. They played videos of Adolf Hitler. During speeches and marches, they showed how people reacted to his words even when he did not present them well. Influence over people in speech and debate was stated as, public speaking is not how you speak necessarily. Public speaking is not what you say about the content. Public speaking is about your presentation. Public speaking is about the story. In other words, public speaking was about passion, inflammatory words, incendiary analogs, and heart-wrenching stories. And Adolf Hitler, who was not particularly charismatic or pretty, and he had a terrible voice. He was small, loud, and obnoxious, screaming man. But he had a passion, and he carried people with his energy. Adolf vilified categories of people and businesses. He inflamed people by citing how they did not have what they wanted and deserved so that they should rise up and take it. Hitler presented himself as a defender of the underdog and the abused people, and that is what exactly people needed to hear. He tied his arguments to the proof that they already believed in. Within his Mein Kampf, his manifesto that he wrote while in jail as a gang leader. The Institute detailed that Adolf Hitler employed an arsenal of public speaking and manipulation techniques to achieve his objectives. They stressed the teaching was not to make another Adolf Hitler, not to make us into evil forces, but rather they stressed his methods should be understood both so that we might defend ourselves against it and employ them should we need them. It was shocking to see so many students' jaws drop as they revealed Adolf Hitler was their public speaking idol and model. In some ways, Berkeley was teaching people how to become Adolf Hitler, no matter what they said. Of course, they said it was akin to Wayne's World. Not. So be like Adolf Hitler. Not. Public speaking would become a cornerstone of my professional career and storytelling. The high school that I attended, Live Oak High School, decided it wanted to spend a lot of money on an Olympic-sized swimming pool and upgrade its football and training equipment. There was no money for computers or debate or anything that I was a part of, they said. But there was money for an Olympic-sized swimming pool. The petition, though, I made was against the school, against its swimming pool and wasting resources. I admit that my memory here is rather faded, but I recall I organized a petition and collected several hundred signatures to support my presentation at the Morgan Hill Unified School District. I recall standing resolutely, arguing my case in front of the panel and the witnesses behind from the community. And after dramatically slamming down my signed petition and with the local newspaper present and recording, the audience stood and clapped and cheered for me. I knew that I had won. The board had no choice. They agreed to no longer build the Olympic-sized swimming pool and other wasteful investments. I cannot recall much to that story otherwise, but I am proud to say that I saved the school's money from stupid leaderships wasting it. Given my success in speech and debate, earning an advanced degree of distinction, and my relentless history of rebelling against the school, a new principal in the school had asked if I would join her advisory committee. She wanted to hear the voices from the students directly. She wanted all groups of people that had influence to be on her committee. And I had influence in the academic side. I was excited to be recognized and have an influential voice. It did not take but a few weeks to realize that it was a facade, however. The principal was using us to send messages out to the students. She did not want to hear what we had to say, but rather wanted to twist in what we said into what she wanted, and then push the narrative back to us to share to the student body. Disillusioned again, I quit the committee and made sure the principal knew why. She did not care at all. She selected sheeple, yes people. And she did select a yes person to replace me, and she carried on without missing me at all. It made no difference. I learned that manipulation exists at all levels, and you cannot trust people's mission or vision statements. The truth was always in their actions, not in their words. My sister Sandra espoused that good things would come her way, and I believe that she genuinely believed it to be true. She struggled with depression, though, at times in her life, and because she rarely had a good relationship with most anyone, if she had one at all, with her family. I consider her life to have been one of tragedy, actually, for a multitude of reasons that I will not go into here. For she had too many troubles in her life herself. She too may have led a life of hell difficulty that culminated in her wandering aimlessly in her apartment in her late 40s, following an apparent early life stroke. She died later that night. I have always striven to learn things in my life through others wherever possible, because I had hoped to avoid those mistakes and missteps myself by observing where they fumbled. Despite Sandra's challenging life and early demise, I did learn things from her. I learned how blind faith can limit your future while you just wait for good things to come to you. I learned how trust in good things coming can be misplaced without reason to believe in it. I learned how believing that soft skills like theatrical acting, things that she enjoyed, persuasion and influence alone, that they should merit success and reward great profits in life, regardless of training or talent, was misplaced. That only the skills that you learned through effort were rewarding. I learned how drinking alcohol to avoid depression was not a viable long-term solution, though it might be a temporary band-aid. It might sound like my sister waited around for her knight in shining armor or a movie or music producer to recognize her in the crowd, to elevate her to rock stardom. And in some ways, that was true. But I think she did all that she knew how to do, but she was constrained by being human in the face of a hellscape and her upbringing and limited opportunities. We'll talk more on these topics, I'm sure, in my shared memories. I think it is also important, though, right now, to note that Sandra's belief in her good things coming was anchored around a delusional belief that she was great, simply because she was destined to be great, and that the world would eventually recognize her grandeur and reward her for simply being great. And yet, Sandra had been severely overweight throughout her life. She was not terribly pretty by traditional Western European standards. She looked entirely fine and average outside of her weight. She underwent surgery as an adult to reduce her stomach's capacity with bands to control how much food she could eat and contain within her stomach, all to reduce her weight. But it failed to take, and she ended up miserable with a small stomach and unable to eat, and yet still overweight. She was an okay high school and community college actress, but did not achieve any recognition. She was just okay. And so eventually she was churned out of it and she gave up. Her delusion of grandeur resulted in her having a demeanor that was off-putting and necessitated that she be in charge in all relationships and situations. She was arguably very domineering. Consequently, Sandra waited for her magical day of recognition, and she wrote positive affirmations on papers. She even burned them in rituals in a fireplace and prayed that her day would come sooner than later. But her day never came. Again, it is a tragedy. I speculate Sandra's delusions were her own protection mechanism against the hellscape of her upbringing and life in San Martin. For in many ways, she lived the life that I had lived. But she did not have the strength, I guess, that I did. She was consumed by her upbringing. Ever since being a young adult, I concluded that it was rarely beneficial to sit idly by and wait for good things to come, or for opportunity to avail itself. I evangelized as I grew up and throughout my adult life. It is imperative to put yourself in the path of opportunity. Again, it is imperative to put yourself in the path of opportunity. Perhaps I gleaned my insight and motivation to push myself hard and always strive for greater things, in contrast to my sister Sandra's wait for good things approach. Whatever the reason that inspired my approach of watching for opportunity and crafting deliberate ways to put myself in its path, I made sure opportunity and good things came to me by putting myself squarely in its path. During professional counseling and guidance with employees, I would share my views and belief that success came to those that put themselves in those paths of opportunity, whereas it may still come for the lucky few that just waited for that fortune to land in their lap. And thus I said, therefore, it is naive and foolish to wait for opportunity because it is random and rare. But success is probable by ensuring opportunity will cross your path so that you can seize it. I do not take credit for the adage, do not ask for permission, instead ask for forgiveness. But it has been a hallmark for my professional career. Do not ask for permission, instead ask for forgiveness. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to swing for the fences, for a baseball home run, to take that leap of faith when there is just barely enough information to likely triumph. Of course, management and leadership should be consulted when time permits, but there are times that require quick action and decisions, and in those moments, heroes are created or lost to never be recognized. It is in those moments where opportunity or high risk are upon you, and there is no time to seek consultation or formal approval. Do not withdraw into your shell like a turtle or stick your head in the sand like an ostrich. No! Instead, you should make your own decision right there, right then, to the best of your ability, and do it. Simplified, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Take risks to innovate and succeed. Consult leadership and management only when time permits. Do not wait for permission to seize opportunity. Ask for forgiveness, not permission, in the right here, right now opportunity moments. Some people might suggest consulting leadership or management is an optional step. And while that is literally true, it is still ill-advised to circumvent the people that influence or outright control your career when they legitimately could and should have been involved. As I noted, I believe only in the urgent, pressing, right here, right now opportunity moments that leadership should be bypassed. During professional counseling and guidance with employees, again, I would share my views and beliefs that success came to those that put themselves in the path of opportunity, whereas it may still come for the lucky few otherwise. I say again, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Take the initiative when you think you have enough information to most likely make the right decision. There are many times in life that I have found myself pausing to consider what someone has said or what to do in a situation. It is difficult to take the time to think without looking dumb or creating an awkward moment of silence or disengagement, especially when you are the focus of everyone's attention. It can feel even more intimidating, potentially embarrassing if you would pause in front of the tribe. Indeed, there are few things more embarrassing than talking and presenting like a brilliant leader, and then someone asks a question that you better know the answer to, or you are in fact a cheat, or you are ignorant and you should not be leading. You cannot even spend 10 seconds to think about their question, for it would expose your ignorance. Winston Churchill provided me with that tool to escape those moments. Like I mentioned in that Berkeley class, that course, I would raise a glass of water or a bottle of water and take a long sip from it. No one can blame you for drinking. People would relate to Churchill's drinking of a common cup of water, just like they would understand their mouths were going dry and you couldn't keep talking, and so you take your sip of water. And while they naturally waited for Winston or me to finish his drink, we collectively gained time to think and formulate a better answer. I used the cup drinking water feint to distract people throughout my entire career. I always had a bottle of water with me. It was good for my dry mouth, but it was definitely good to buy time. Like Winston Churchill's cup of drinking water, time-buying technique, I had another technique called the lame duck. It was the lame duck deflection and distraction technique. I didn't conceive the lame duck technique. I was told that it originated from private companies that contracted with the US military. They recognized that top brass, leadership from the Army, Navy, etc., Air Force, would invariably believe that they had better ideas than everybody else. They knew best, and they needed to put their mark on everything that was made, and so they would improve it with their ideas. To satisfy those executives, whether it be your company or the military, I would say it remained the same. Insert an obvious bad design element or an easy to improve area so that executives who may not know that much would see it and they could feel good about contributing and improving the product or operation by deliberately correcting the thing that you deliberately put that was flawed. It was a subversive way, in my opinion, to play bad and ignorant leadership. Perhaps to keep myself forever occupied and focused on things outside my unpleasant home life, I immersed myself in programming, writing stories, crafting and running Dungeons & Dragons adventure modules and campaigns, and cracking and hacking software. And I took on money-making chores and jobs whenever and however they came up. Most of my hobbies and interests ultimately were tied to making money or telling stories. Even programming was pursued so that I could tell stories through computer games. At school, I was involved with several extracurricular activities too. Debate Club, Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA. My mother and Sam mocked me for FBLA because it was management, which they deeply disrespected. Chess Club, the Computer Club, Dungeons & Dragons Club, and of course, that Principal's Advisory Committee. I am surprised often to hear people vaguely recognize the Winston Churchill's famous saying about never giving in. I too intuitively recall Churchill as saying never ever ever give up. Winston Churchill's October 1941 speech about World War II actually declared, "Never give in, never give in. Never, 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 in nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense." Churchill had another quote that I valued that reinforced my putting yourself in the path of opportunity perspective. He had said, "The pessimist sees the problems in every opportunity, whereas the optimist sees the opportunity in every problem." Those words, I feel, are important for us all to live by. Never give in, never give in. Never, 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 never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. The pessimist sees the problems in every opportunity, whereas the optimist sees the opportunity in every problem.